Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the special episode of Rocket IT's Business Podcast with my buddy, Jeremie Kubicek. I'm your host, Matt Hyatt, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with a Wall Street Journal best-selling author, co-founder of Giant, Jeremie Kubicek. Through his passion for entrepreneurship, Jeremie's coached businesses. You may have heard of some of them: Google, Microsoft, Chick-fil-A, helping leaders truly unlock their potential for success. And today we're excited to have him on the show to discuss his newest written book. How many books have you written so far, Jeremie? Like 7?
Published five, six.
Published.
If you count, like a soft cover update. 7
Nice.
if you count the one that I, have written but haven't officially.
I was going to
published.
say,
let's say 5.
I bet you there's one in the kitty moving forward. But 7 books, awesome. Excited to have him on the show. The newest book is about the Peace Index, something I've heard Jeremie talk about a little bit. I'm really excited to share. Man, talk about a timely title. Peace Index is a 5-part framework to conquer chaos and find fulfillment. How timely is that in this world right now? So good job. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Let's dive right in. Jeremie, welcome to the show.
Matt, always good to be with the mayor. I call you the mayor because I know the real mayor may
You're
be
the one person that calls me the mayor. Yeah, thank you.
But I love I love your heart for the community, for going at, having lived there for so long. I just love what you do and the work that you do.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that very much. Right back at you. Big admirer, big fan. Always happy to talk with you. And when I can share you with my friends and by extension, the community, I think that's just an awesome thing. I think the world of you, and I think it's going to be good for folks to hear a little bit about what you're up to and your path. So a reminder to the folks that might be listening, we have had you on the show before. I think it was episode 13. We had you come in. And we love, like I said, having the opportunity to talk with you. We heard a little bit about you from that episode, but I want to just, for folks that maybe haven't heard that, and it has been a little while, let's refresh our memory. Give us a little bit about your background. Where'd you come from? What's had your last professional life?
All right, so it's funny. I had a professor when I was in college, and we went to Asia, and he had a major impact on my life. And he basically kind of gave me this framework of like, how do I let the world fund me to influence it? So how do I do impact and income together? Mm-hmm. And I've been on a journey of exploration on that. And so I moved to Russia. I started some companies in Moscow, which is really interesting at this stage because
it's not many people talking about that right now.
No, and
Americans
you think
talking about moving to Russia.
Yeah, and this was in '93, right? So this was after the walls came down. But we established what is now the largest private school in Moscow, the Moscow Economic School. And so a lot of the leaders' kids go to the school, and we rotated, still do, I believe, rotate through teachers who teach ethics in Russia, right? And so interesting to say the least, but it was our attempt to bring, liberation to that part of the world. So I was learning how to do that. And then I've been in private equity. I've been in distribution. My dad always said, in your 20s, it's not what you do, it's who you work for that's most important. So I found the person I wanted to work for. And that got me into African-American hair care products. Not that I wanted to be or knew anything about it as a Czechoslovakian, but I learned a ton from this guy named Kent Humphreys. And then he sold the business. I got into private equity and then worked for a dominating leader out of New York. And that actually is the reason. Russia and that dominating leader is probably the main reasons I've created like the support challenge matrix. Some of the tools that are now being used around the world came from that experience.
Nice.
And then we ended up in Atlanta because I started Giant in 2002, and then we bought John Maxwell's assets. I moved to Atlanta to merge those into Giant. Then some of you will have known us for the LeaderCast. I built the LeaderCast conference, and then we took Catalyst and made it a national brand. sold Maxwell, sold all of those things, and moved to to London. And so, as you do, and started the version of Giant that we're doing now. I felt like there was a 21st century way to scale leadership. And that's what Steve Cochran and I went after with you and others that were a part of that. And, some fun memories for sure. So we're on this journey to bring our version of liberation and peace on earth, really, by helping leaders get healthy. And it's working. It's working.
Yeah,
and so now, now we have 850 consultants or coaches that are certified, and they're our client. We basically work with coaches who then work with companies. And it's a really fun process. And I write books and speak and travel and meet with companies and meet with our coaches around the globe. And I get to inspire them. There we go.
Yeah, thank you for that. I know you well enough to know that that's not even half of all the stuff you've had your attention on and focused on and things that you've accomplished. One thing you pointed out there that I love to I tell people about when I'm talking about Jeremie Kubicek. I talk about you all the time, but the courage that you had when we sat down years ago and you told me, hey, not only am I selling my business, but I'm selling my home, my cars, all my worldly possessions, and I'm moving my family to the UK with not really a particular plan. I think you had an idea, but you took a leap of faith, and we're going to, I remember you telling me we're going to, maybe start another business and see where that leads us, but also maybe explore Europe and spend time with our kids. And you did exactly that. And that the courage and bravery that it took to do that, I admire quite a lot. Not many folks will get out of their shell and comfort zone to do something like that. So awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you back, Jeremie.
Thank you. I think it's important every 2 to 3 years, especially in our world these days, to reevaluate your life every 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing that. And if you need to reset. I was just with a CEO. He's in a horrible situation with a private equity group. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I was like, get out, man. Now, let me show you how. Here's what you do. Pass the baton, someone else. Update your vision over here and do the things that bring life, because life's too short. That if you're dying, everyone around you will feel it. And if you're full of negativity, it will come out and you'll be affecting everyone around you. So for me, it's just not worth it. And so that's why I have the guts to reset. So.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, I guess I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but I think that kind of is a great segue into to your most recent book, The Peace Index, about evaluating that place we are in life and having a framework to make decisions about, hey, is it sink or swim? Is it time to dig in or time to bail? And I'm sure there's a lot more to that too. Where did that come from? Tell me a little bit about that. Where did that concept come from?
Yeah, well, it came from the Peace Index came actually from a sermon from a guy named Frog or Ewing. His name is Frog. Isn't that funny?
I've met Frog, actually.
Yeah, you remember Frog in England. And he basically had 3 components. He had purpose, people, and place. And so we then dug in a little deeper and had personal health. We had a few other people who, Joe Hill and some other people who had really influenced it. We added provision. But what we really, the idea that hit me was, every single person who walks in everywhere, every day, has a circle over their head and it has a number over their head. And that number is their level of peace. And it's going up and down just like the stock market. It's ticking up, it's ticking down, and it's being affected by global chaos and local frustrations and local issues. And around purpose, what am I doing? Why am I doing this job? Is this really what I'm designed to be, right? Which is around our work.
Right.
Tied to people. You're only as good as your weakest kid. That's as a kind of a joke, but one child, if they're not right, it can affect you, or one neighbor or one mother-in-law, or pick. People affect you. Place. I just don't like my living situation and I dread going home or whatever. Personal health. I've got some sickness. I've got something that's not right. Mental, physical, spiritual. And then provision is I'm just not earning enough. My daughter right now is 24. She really likes what she's doing. She's just not earning enough. And it's really, really tight, And so it's really affecting her level of peace. So when you put all 5 of those together and you add up the number, which we can do in a minute, we'll test out what yours is in front of the entire world. We'll test and see what your peace index is.
That's fantastic.
And
I was hoping we could do that.
And then, but when you realize what your number is, and then you know which one's lowest, why is it the lowest, and why is it off? Which one is off and why is it off? Then you can begin to control the controllables. And that's when it gets really fun. So you can get really honest and go, yep, it's my place. And can I do anything about it or not? And most cases you can, more than you think you can.
I want to make sure I caught that. You say most places you can more than you think you can?
Yeah, you can change things more than you think you can change them.
Yeah, I guess in the back of my mind, I was just telling somebody earlier today, actually. And by the way, generally I think I am an optimist. I'm very kind of future oriented, and I always think there's a way to get where we want to go. On the other hand, the world is feeling really heavy right now. We got a hurricane coming up. I have family in Florida. I'm worried about them. There's inflation like crazy. The hiring market's been tough. Pandemic, war. It's all this stuff just feels really heavy.
Chaos.
But I can't control those things. And so trying to, set that aside and focus on what I can control, important.
And the idea then of the book even is I'm basically teaching people that maturity is to be able to develop inner peace when there is no external peace. So developing internal peace. And the other big aha is the peace index actually helps you manage your emotions so that other people don't have to manage your emotions. And wouldn't it be nice if each person listening, if all of us would be aware of where we're off, work on it, deal with it, so that other people aren't having to work on it and deal with it for you. And that's really it. In the midst of supply chain, inflation, political unrest, social unrest, blah, 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 another pox. I just read yesterday that there's a new Russian pandemic thing coming called, Kosna 52 or some crazy name. And you're like, but in our world, that social media, that news cycle, it spreads unrest, partly because that's their business.
Right.
It's like the more unrest, the better, because they they need advertisers to watch what's coming, what's going on. And so the global sadness, Gallup has a global sadness poll. It's at 28%. It's never been this high.
Really?
Directly related to it
higher is worse, right?
Higher is worse. Directly related is the antidepressant percentage. There's basically 25% of the population are on some sort of antidepressant or medicine.
Wow.
For anxiety.
Yeah, that's tough.
So, yeah.
So this seed of an idea, I mean, that's at least 10 years back, right?
7
and all that stuff. So I was working on it for a while. Why a book you've got a video platform. You're out there speaking all the time. Why write a book on this topic?
Well, so first, it's a really quick read. It's a fast read because most people don't read much anymore, right?
Yeah.
So, but my publisher, Wiley, came to me in April. It was April the 26th, and they said, "Hey, we really think you should write." I just signed a 3-book deal. They go, "Hey, before you get started on that, do you think that you could write a book on peace? We think it's really needed in the fall."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "You mean this fall?" And they're like, this was April 26th. And so they go, the deadline is June 1st, May 31st.
Wow.
And so I thought about it for a day. I got back to him like, yeah, I'm all right. I got it. And it was actually an attempt for me to go, can I write a book? Can I write all my books? Most authors have a ghostwriter. I write all mine. And I basically looked at my wife and we made the time and space. And, I have a system. I have a pretty cool book writing system that works for me. And I wrote it in 18 days.
Wow.
And then I had to, editing over the summer.
Sure.
But 18 days of hard writing.
Out of curiosity, do you have a place for that? Like, do you have a physical place? Like, I'm going to write, I'm going to do this in my office or by the pool, or I'm going to travel somewhere. Or I like to do it at the, how does that work?
Yeah. So typically in the past, I would write, they would take me 6 months to write a book, 4 months of really hard writing. And I would go off for 10 days and write like the 5 Gears I wrote in Jeff Lampkin's house in Florida on the beach, Apalachicola. And, the 5 Voices was written in, Cliveden House, and places like that, UK. And this one was written at the Prairie at Post,
nice.
which is our neighborhood we built, so for those that you don't know,
we spare time.
Kelly and I, we built a neighborhood, co-developed it, and we had 50 acres, 21 houses. So we designed my house to be a place where I could write as well, and it's just peaceful, and just knocked it out.
Hey, love it. I love it. Well, let's dig into it a little bit. Tell us about the mechanics, the peace index. If I want to know what my number is, how do I figure that out?
Let's go. Okay, we're gonna go with you, right? So you got your phone. Do you have your calculator there, or I can do it for you? I got it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do it for me.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna do, Matt. We're gonna do you, and then I'll say mine too, so you don't feel like it's only you. We're gonna
go first, so my numbers can be higher.
Yeah. Let's go into purpose and go. How good do you feel about what you're doing will align to who you are? So how much does what you're doing align to who you are? How good do you feel about your purpose? 1 through 100. 100 is highest.
Yeah, pretty dang high, I'd say. So I'm going to say 90.
90. And list all those listening, someone's 90 might be someone else's 85. Okay, so it's really your number. Well, you think about a movie. If we went to see a movie and you give it a 9 and I give it an 8, but we might both think it's exactly the same
amount. Okay, all right.
That's
it's a little bit subjective.
Yeah, it's subjective. So 90, it's a good score. That's a good one. Now, people is the next category. This would be the top 10 people in your life. Like, well, you're an introvert, so maybe top 5. No, I'm joking. But
for those 10 people,
for those that you're around, for those that you're around the most,
right?
How good? What's the level of peace in the relationships that you have with your people?
Well, if I were to name them, some of them are 10s and some of them are 5s.
Yeah, I know.
So,
you don't want to name them, so you just collectively, subjectively.
We'll use fake names.
Yeah.
Names that rhyme with Maureen, my wife. No, actually, so just off the cuff, maybe a 7, because I've got a lot of really good ones.
70.
Yeah, sorry, 70. 7 would be terrible, huh?
Yeah.
No peace at all. 70. Yeah, 7 out of 10 or 70 out of 100.
Okay.
Most of the relationships are really good. I worry about some folks. So
yeah, there you go.
That draws it down.
And all of us are like that. And that's what I mean. Some days those people are better. So someone else's lack of peace affects your lack of peace or affects your peace level.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
And the goal would be that other people's lack of peace wouldn't affect your level of peace. But all right. But it does. Let's go over to place. Place would be your spaces that supercharge you, your home, your living area, your office, your community, the region.
Yeah.
How good do you feel? What level?
That's really good. I'd say another 90.
Plus 90. Okay.
We love Atlanta. We love the place we're living. We love our office building here. Community's great.
So good setup. I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So let's go now into your personal health. This is mental health, which is unstable. Right. I'm joking.
We're starting at 0. Okay. I'm working
mental, physical, spiritual, collectively, mind, body, spirit. How do you feel?
I'd say, honestly speaking, probably a 50. A few pounds overweight.
Yeah.
Pandemic.
Yep.
I'm going to blame it on the pandemic because it's not my fault.
I get it.
Right? Somebody else's fault. So yeah,
Totally.
let's say 50.
All right.
Pretty stressed around a bunch of things. So yeah.
The next one and the last one is your provision. So it's how good do you feel about what you need? There's a difference between what you need and what you want.
Right.
Some of you listening might go, yeah, I really want to be in this neighborhood, or I'd like this car. Those are wants.
Mm-hmm.
Needs, contentment is really around needs. Do you have what you need to do what you do? What level would you put yourself at?
And we're talking about, what I want to do in business, what I want. What do you say? Need.
Yeah, it's your needs.
So need 90.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we add all those together.
Worried about? Oh my gosh, I got all these 90s, and then I got a 50.
Your score is a 78. You have a 78 over your head.
Yeah.
So what you do then is you go, okay, well, which one of those is lowest? You had personal health, and now control what you can control. What are the controllables? So what are you dissatisfied with, and is it controllable? Can you make changes on those? Right. That's your game plan. So then you get a game plan. The point of the peace index. Now, by the way, this is we just are doing only one chapter of the book. Yeah. Inside each of them, there's a deeper level of assessment. There's in the peace index, you have a place assessment, you have an actual budgeting process and the provision, you have a people assessment that you don't want to show anyone, or your piece is going to get down quickly, because you literally write out a number, a score for every person, the top 10, and is it going up, sideways, or down? And I have this whole entire process there that you go through. So, but that's really the goal here. And then at the end, my favorite chapter is chapter 8 on how to keep the peace and what I do to manage my emotions and work on my peace index on a daily basis. And it works.
That's really cool. I kind of like the number over your head thing. I'm kind of thinking about that. I happened to sit through a presentation by our local public school superintendent last week. And they had a little video presentation, and they were talking about, they've got thousands of teachers that work for this school system. And they were, and literally north of 100,000 kids. So lots and lots of people involved. And so the video was talking about creating a school system that's supportive of everyone. And they would show little vignettes. And of course, it was all, they made sure to say this is all fictional. But, here's a student walking down the hall that maybe they're worried about their parent who has cancer. And then they show a teacher, and the teacher is concerned about their 12-year-old dog that's not feeling well. And then they have another person, and maybe there's something happy going on in their life. They're looking forward to a reunion that's coming up or something. And they thought, what the point of the video was, hey, you never know what's going on with people around you. And so we need to provide an environment where everyone can feel supported and happy and safe. And so they can have a great learning environment. And you kind of think, wow, wouldn't it be cool if, there was a little badge or a little circle over the head, so you could kind of tell who needs a little extra support and who might be struggling behind the scenes. You just don't know what's going on,
it's so true, because you judge people as they walk in. You're like, what happened to Tom? Man, Tom used to be such a good employee. Well, you have no idea that his wife is sick, but he doesn't want to say anything because you don't know the details. So I was just with Bar Taco. Have you been to Bar Taco?
I have been to Bar Taco. Yeah, that's a
Do you like
Disney-owned restaurant, isn't it?
No, it's not.
No, I thought it was. No. So no, I do know Bar Taco. Maybe there's one at Disney or something, but there's a Bar Taco in Atlanta. And a lot of other major cities too. Yes, love the decor there. Really cool decor. Lots of cool.
Really good. So. Yeah, that's their founders' pictures.
Too,
the food's amazing. But here's what I'm telling you. What's so amazing about this group is they're investing in their people. And they said they want to be amazing at their ambiance, amazing at the food, but they're in the people business. And what they realized was that they need their team leaders to be healthy, number one, but they really, really need their team leaders to assess the peace levels of their employees. So they've rolled out the peace index to every one of their team leaders, general managers, regional directors, all of their restaurant managers, so that they can actually have better conversations with the people they're hiring, they're working with. So that's what's happened. So a lot of people, and this is a shameless plug, but a lot of people are buying books for their teams. Like we're getting more than any other book we've ever done. This is like 10s and 25s and 50s and
really
it's
Peace Index.
It's crazy.
Wow, that's awesome.
But for their team leaders, because of what's happening, like it gives them language to deal with their employees. And that's the reality. No one knows what to do because there's a mental health issues, but you can't send everyone to counseling.
Right.
You just can't.
Right.
So when you figure out what it is, what's over their head, this number, oh, it's their place, or oh, it's their person, or so now we're having to train emotional intelligence as a part of everyday business. And most people haven't had to do that because, a lot of leaders are like, can't we just do our work? Why is everything, why are you bringing home to work? Well, because of these devices. We never thought about how intrusive cell phones and text messages would be, and then social media and all of those components come into your business. So now your head knowledge is directly tied to the fulfillment of your heart. So head and heart go together more than they ever have before. So in the past, peace was like taboo. It's too personal. Now you have to talk about peace because driven people drive people. Peace is directly tied to performance. And if you don't understand the level of peace and the level of hope that those two words affect if people are going to stay with you or not, which then creates disruption if they don't, it's called the turnover rate, right? So that's ultimately what I'm trying to do is give leaders and team leaders an understanding of how to assess their employees.
So I'd love to, maybe we'll see if this is something we can fit into this little episode here, but give us a practical example of how that plays out. Take I think our typical listener is probably going to be a business or a nonprofit leader of some kind, often 25 to 100 team members. What's the practical application of Peace Index for somebody like that?
So I can tell you the recent situation with the team I've been working with. The team leader or the owner of this team of people, he is a great guy, but I'm trying to be careful how to say this in the right way if it ever came back. Let's just say people don't know if this person is truly for them because his body language, his demeanor, his perform, but his heart really is, he has good intent and he wants the best for his people, but his personality and his wiring don't show it. So what was happening was he was starting to lose people and shockingly, like people who were, he thought loyal, and he's like, what is happening? I lost 2 of my long-term team leaders because they lost hope that the team was going to get better. They lost hope because they weren't seeing it. And then they had other opportunities. This was in the last year. They had other opportunities and they jumped ship and went to those. Now, I don't think they're that much happier.
Going on right now. What was that?
I don't think they're a lot. I don't think they're more. I don't think they're happier. The grass is greener on the other side. And in both cases, I know those people and they're not. But they went, they took the jump all because they didn't believe that they thought that their leader had hit the ceiling. And when I asked why, kind of an exit interview, I asked why, it was like, I just didn't feel like he was for me anymore. I didn't feel like he was proactive. I didn't feel like we were making decisions that need to be made. So it looked like we were just treading water. So it was very much a feel.
Right.
Well, to the thinker, and the leader is a thinker, he was like, that makes no sense. What do you mean I feel? We have our quota. We're trying to hit our budget. They know, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And that's the era that we're in. We're in a rash, fickle era of employment.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't leave. They liked their job, they liked their work, but it was the person they left, not the business they left. Okay. So when you think about then what needs to happen, so this guy goes, what do I need to do?
All right.
Go, well, let's use the Peace Index. Let's do a test. Let's just do an assessment. Everyone can take the assessment. I have the assessment for free. If you want to, if anyone listening, it's the peaceindexbook.com. Okay, you can go take a free assessment, and it gives you your level of peace. And if you want to have people do it and then share it with you, that would be really a fascinating conversation. Yeah. But talking about the Peace Index, hey, now it's like, hey, where are you at, man? What's going on? Mm-hmm. Now it becomes objective language versus the subjective. Matt, you seem kind of down. What's up? Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if I trust you or not, but if we go, where's your Peace Index? Mine's at a 72. My lowest is personal health. What about you? Now we have at least some language to actually know what's going on with people. And then we can go, I get it. Now, a lot of people are afraid that this will turn into counseling sessions. And it doesn't. It doesn't. I've done it now for, like you said, 7-8 years. It doesn't. It turns into my leader knows me and is for me. And if there's situations like, hey, mental health issues, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, but I have a recommendation. We have a resource if you need. Mm-hmm. So what that's doing is that showing support, which then makes it easier to bring challenge because it feels like you know me, and most people want to be known.
Sure.
And if they're not known or feeling there's hope in their workplace, they go somewhere else. So Peace Index is a simple tool, but there's powerful assessments inside of it to help leaders know how to lead.
So do you see, we established my number 78, right?
Yep.
So let's see, trying to remember back in school, it's like a C plus.
C plus. Yeah.
That tracks well with my, school performance. I love it. So does the number change? Am I always going to be a 78?
No, it can change every day. Now, once you get to higher levels, you're hoping it doesn't oscillate as much. You hope it kind of goes up and down, stays more steady. Mm-hmm. So I've been an 88 for a long time. Today I was up to 92.
Really?
I have a book launch. There's a lot of good stuff. It's you.
Yeah.
But I've been in an 88 but I'm not going like 90, 60. Right. I'm not, those are massive jumps if there's some crazy things going on in your life.
Right.
But it moves up and down based on those factors.
So you said it could change every day. Should I be questioning what my Peace Index? Do I need to get my iPhone out every day and say, all right, today I'm
well, you can. My wife and I went date nights. We start with where's your Peace Index?
Really?
When I meet with my kids or 20-year-olds, it's the Peace Index every time. Huh. What's up? When I do my YPO forum I'm in, we always start with the Peace Index. Nice. My team, probably once a month or every 6 weeks, we do a Peace Index check-in. So it's just good. It makes it. You know what it's really doing? It's getting them to think about self-awareness and about self-care. And they're starting to manage their own emotions. And then there's another key component, though, that I put in the book. It's really the driver. One of them is a driver. And it's the most important circle. So for me, it's purpose. If my purpose is off, everything else is off. So you could have a low number. Yeah. And for most people, it's people or purpose is the number one driver. But like when I was living, I was living in Johns Creek, and I had bought John Maxwell's businesses. I was merging them into Giant. My purpose in 2007 was really high, 95. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm just so excited. And the people, because we had to do a turnaround because the business was so, it was so done. I had to clean it up and turn it around. All the people were excited about me. And then it was new, the place, an hour from the mountains. We can go to the beach in 5-6 hours. You're like, this is awesome.
Right.
Lots to do in Atlanta. So it's
Can't
in
do
the
that
90s.
in Oklahoma City.
Can't do that in Oklahoma City. Then we get to my personal health. I was younger. It was really pretty good. Provision was good. I mean, literally, I was probably a 94.
Wow.
As a total peace index, really high. Fast forward 7 years, my purpose had dropped from a 95 down to a 60 because I was managing other people's visions, not my own. So then when my driver fell, all of the other pieces fell. And then I started noticing things like traffic. When my purpose was high, I didn't notice the traffic. When my purpose was low and my driver was off, I noticed traffic. Man, there's a lot of transient people here and school and blah, 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 blah. Then you start to whine and complain. And then my personal health, I'm stressed. It's starting to fall apart. So we moved to London. Place, you were at our place. You saw, built in 1583, 10-bedroom old manor. Place
it's too bad you couldn't afford something newer.
Really high. Purpose was high again. My people were high. My personal health was high. My provision was low because I was funding that lifestyle.
Right.
But
that was an awesome place.
So the peace index is actually a story. It's a narrative. At any point in time, you can look back and do the peace index and tell your story. And so when we moved here, we moved back to Oklahoma. My purpose was still really high. The people were still really high because they're all involved in Giant. And then I'm getting to come back to our old friends, my family. But my place went back because I didn't want to come back to my hometown. So my place dropped from the River Thames to Oklahoma City. And I dropped down from like 92 down to a 70. And so that's when we decided to build a neighborhood.
Right.
So that response was like, and I know not everyone can build a neighborhood, right? But we built a neighborhood and it's amazing. You've been to our place.
I have, yes. Very cool.
And it's so fun. And so it gets me back in the high 80s per place. So that's what I mean. Like control what you can control if possible.
Right.
So
I love it. So tell me a little bit about, you control what you control. And all of us have felt, especially externally, last several years of pandemic and world unrest and all that stuff. That's a lot of negativity to have kind of out there and around us. Do you have some tips and tricks on how we can manage those negative things that are in our life and maybe inevitable?
Yeah, and this one...
one of mine is just, I try not to watch the news, but even I get drawn into it sometimes.
Well, this is the one that I would tell you. It's chapter 8. It's my favorite chapter probably I've ever written. It's called Keeping the Peace. And I'm going to give you just a couple of tidbits, but I'm telling you, this chapter is worth the entire book, the price, the whole $15, $18, whatever it is that we have it, it is priced. Anyway, it goes like this. Every morning I call myself up. I remind myself who I am. You still have me, Matt? There we go.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I call myself up and I remind myself who I am. It's a really interesting little exercise. I then look for people of peace all day. So people that really are that I'm supposed to serve and supposed to help. And then every day at 5:30, I do this exercise called the Examine. And every single day, I'd say I do it 80% of the week. I go, what was I grateful for today? Number one. Number two, I then go, where was I off today? And it's basically the idea of so far as it depends on me, be at peace with all men. Where was I off? Not other people. And what it does is I keep really short accounts. It helps me deal with any drama. And it works. It's amazing. And then the last thing I do is called rest in peace sleep. I put a theme over myself at night. Eradicate negativity. One this week was choose joy or expect joy. So when I wake up in the morning, I try to remember the theme. And it's really hard to remember the theme. It's crazy. And
the one set the night before?
Yeah, it's really amazing how hard it is.
Huh,
But
interesting.
then I go, okay, what was that theme? Oh yeah, expect joy. So then it gets me into the right frame. So what I'm doing is I'm working to eradicate negativity. I'm working on a system that really, really causes me to step in to what my superpowers are, what I do the best, and it increases my level of peace because again, I'm managing my emotions, so my wife doesn't have to manage them, or my friends or my
Your
business
wife doesn't
partners
have to
don't.
manage your emotions. Yeah,
That's it, because I manage my own.
Out of curiosity, is that a written exercise or just a thought exercise?
It's a written down. Yeah. Oh, it's a thought now because I do it while I drive.
Yeah.
I used to write it down, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it without. So I do it freely. Like yesterday, I was on an airplane, and I'm sitting there in my seat doing the examine, and it was just
I guess
really
once you've
good.
been through the reps enough times, just kind of remember everything. So I've got it. So Chris, our producer on the show, helped me out a little bit and trying to craft good, solid questions for Jeremie. One of the questions he was asking about is how can we serve as a model of peace? How can we serve as a model of peace in a chaotic world? And I know you've talked about a little bit about kind of how you're checking yourself, but is that an intentional choice of, hey, the world's a crazy place, and I'm going to walk around with my 94 or 88 and try and help folks out? Is that a conscious decision?
Yeah, absolutely. It is it's a process. So like we can't give what we don't possess. So the idea that there is no world peace until each of us have internal peace. Like world peace is all of us having peace, right? So doing your part for world peace is doing your part to actually manage your emotions. And I think that's the key component. Most people don't manage their emotions. So we have to deal with that drama. And that's not fair to the rest of us.
All right. Very cool. I love it. I did not get an advanced copy of the book. I'm familiar with the concept because we talked about it a bunch, but I'm looking forward to reading the book. So I'm confessing to the audience, I haven't read it yet.
But you've gone through the concept. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's just it's coming out Tuesday. Next Tuesday.
I was going to ask. So Tuesday? So today's the 27th. That sounds like about October 4th.
That's it.
I think that's right. About October 4th. And so awesome. We can order it on Amazon, I'm sure. Is there a better place to order it?
Well, the peaceindexbook.com has two different spots. There's actually a discount for bulk orders if you buy it for teams.
Yeah.
So you can get bulk discounts, or you can go to Amazon, and you could also take the Peace Index assessment at the peaceindexbook.com.
The peaceindexbook.com. All right, cool. We will check it out. I'm going to check your math, Jeremie. Find out if I'm really a 78 or not.
I like it.
Maybe I can improve it by the time I sit down and do the thing. You never know.
Our buddy Chris Edgar built the assessment, so blame it on him.
Did he really? Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Chris is a local entrepreneur to Gwinnett County and a friend of Giant and Rocket IT. So that's pretty awesome. Love it. All right, man. So let's do a little lightning round, shall we? You've done this once before. We'll see. We'll go back and compare to episode 13 and see if your answers have changed. But tell us about a single person that's made a huge difference in your life.
Doug. You want his last name or just first name?
Well, you share as much as you want. Tell us about Doug.
All right. Doug was 83 years old. He was my mentor. When he was 81, he started mentoring me up until he was 84. He passed away at 86. So 3 years with him. And he would say things like this. And he was one of the most influential leaders in the world that people didn't know about. He was meeting with presidents and foreign secretaries around the world on a regular basis. And so I got to shadow him and set in on some of these meetings. Okay. So not to name drop, but that was what I did for a long period of time when I was living in Atlanta. And he would say things like this: Jeremie, do fountains move? I'm like, what'd you say? Do fountains move? I'm like, no, Doug, fountains don't move. Do fountains go to people, or do people go to fountains? And I'm like, people come to fountains. Why? Because they're thirsty and they need refreshing. And you go, be a fountain. And that's what he would say. Like, be a fountain. And what he meant was what I'm experiencing right now. And you are too, Matt, to that degree. I'm like, people want to be around healthy people. And when you're healthy and when you have nothing to prove and nothing to lose and nothing to hide, then you're free to give. And then people pull from you. You're not having to push. You know, and right now I'm in a weird spot because I'm pushing. I don't say pushing. I'm promoting my book, which is always hard. I'm like, hey, Matt, would you mind buying some books? You know, and that's like that feels like it's an ask, but I'm drawing down from capital. But it's actually so good for people and so healthy that it doesn't feel like heavy lifting right now. And I've been trying to live a life to go, can I be a fountain for people? And that's really it. It's like, imagine if all of those guys were fountains for me. Now I'm turning around and trying to be a fountain for other people.
I love it. Well, and in your, early 40s too.
Come on.
It's something like
I'll
that.
be 51 next week. On my book launch is my birthday. I'll be 51.
Hey, happy birthday.
Thank you.
I love it. All right. So, you just shared an important life lesson with us, but I'd like to know, is there another one? Is that the most important life lesson you think you sort of landed on? Because this is an interesting question to ask you, because you've spent a lifetime studying this stuff, and you've written about a lot of important things and how people can leverage tools and vocabulary to improve their lives. What stands out for you as a really important lesson?
There's so many, right? Because I learned from, like many of you, I learned from dead people, like reading their books. And, so I'm
not listening to their podcast, probably.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by Dwight Eisenhower and how he built infrastructure. I have, John Cragen, who taught me how to use business, as I mentioned, as a platform for good. My dad teaching me the ropes of in your 20s. It's not what you do, it's who you work for, and do it right the first time, right? There's all these components. Will Rogers, which, I'm a massive Will Rogers fan.
Right.
And so just Will Rogers to me is who says you can't. But honestly, if I'm going to promote my state here, Oklahoma is not the most, people aren't running and rushing to get into Oklahoma per se, right? It's not like the ideal state. It's not like a California that you go, or Florida, but there is a culture here of pioneering spirit, and the values of an Oklahoman resonate with me. And they're basically resilience. They are pioneering, who says you can't, and kind of a entrepreneurial wonderland. And, like literally, I don't feel limited at all here, where at other places I've lived that maybe felt a little bit limited, or like, well, who says you can? And who's so who's your dad? Tell me about your family. And like, that was an indicator of whether you should be doing what you're doing or not. And so for me, I've just kind of lived that life of like, what if we got to the point of who says we can't? And that becomes now the level of like, a fervor and excitement and risk. And so that's what I try to live my life. And I look for people of peace every day, and then I just give them my best and try to activate them and awaken them. And so I'm rambling, but those are some thoughts.
Great. That's great. So as an author of a number of best-selling books, you spent a good portion of your professional life working with folks from all different walks of life and different leaders and so forth. Where do you go for inspiration? Is there a favorite podcast? Is there a favorite book right now that you're reading? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so this is where it's kind of interesting, Matt, because where I go is I go in the air. I go up to Delta on a flight.
Okay.
And what I love to do more than anything, I read a ton, so I gather people's feedback. But I actually like to solve problems. That's why I build all the tools. And I start playing with like, wonder why he does that. Is it? And so then my thoughts become my playground, if you will. Right. So it's in my head is where I like to go. And I like to play with ideas and ideals and going, I bet that if we could change this, it would lead to that. And then I take some reading that I've had or I'll pull them back up. And then I apply a phrase or something that I've kept. So I have a very rich notes section in my phone. And that notes section has all these categories so that when I go to my Wonderland, I can then pull a quote or an idea or whatever into that solution.
That's interesting. Okay, so I'm a techie. I got to know, what's the app you're using for that? You're literally using the Notes app, or?
It's called Notes on your phone.
Really?
Yes. I just use Notes. That's
basically the 21st century spiral bound. Right there.
That's it. That's it. And it's I have this better business idea here. I've got all these different notes on influencers. I also have dad jokes in here too, which I put in.
Oh man, can I put you on the spot?
Can I tell you one? Can
yes,
I do
please.
one?
Yes, please.
All right. My wife, she accused me of stealing her thesaurus. Not only was I shocked, but I was also aghast, appalled, and dismayed.
Nice. I love it.
No?
There's a second part of that. I actually heard that one the other day. Do you have it?
No, I don't.
Do you have it? No.
I don't.
Oh.
What is it?
My wife asked me what I did with the dog bowl. I'm going to get it wrong. Right? And I said, I didn't know he could.
That's it. Isn't that funny?
I'm sure I botched that. Oh man, forever emblazoned and podcast episode whatever we're on. But yeah,
so anyway.
I actually saw that the other day. I love it. Well, on that note, Jeremie, it's time to wrap things up for myself and our audience. Thank you for joining me today. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope this episode provided you with a new means to find peace in a chaotic world. And for those wishing to expand that peaceful thinking into their work life, Rocket IT helps businesses and nonprofit organizations protect their data through modern cybersecurity measures. To take the first step in protecting your team, achieving a restful state of mind, contact us. Love this copy from Chris, man. It's so good. Contact us, marketing@rocketit.com, or you can call us at 770-441-2520. Thank you, sir. Jeremie, enjoyed it. Nice job.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.